Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, Dave D Fishing. So in this video we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a refresh on one of my favorite rods, and no, it is not an expensive one. It is a $50 Bass Pro Special. It is an offshore angler sea lion that I bought for $50 when I was a broke college student. I have created a lot of good memories with it. I have caught a lot of haddock with it, pollock and cod. So I'm bringing you along on this little adventure to rebuild this thing, and I hope I inspire you to refresh one of your favorite rods that you have a lot of memories with, and that you might give it a new lease on life and catch some more fish with it. This video is going to be the first in a new playlist of mine called Rod Rescue. I hope you guys enjoy it. So this rod in my hands, I bought this way back when I was in college, and it has suffered the consequences of neglect. I just threw this thing in my car when I was done fishing at the end of the day. Being out in a boat is exhausting, and yeah, checked it in my car and didn't think twice about it. The blank itself is fiberglass, so it's really durable. The weak parts are the grips and the guides. These wire guides on here are cheap to keep the cost down on building these rods, and they're very subject to corrosion. So my goal is to replace the front, this foregrip right here, replace the guides and upgrade them in the process with something a little bit nicer and less subject to corrosion. And I also found that the reel seat, there is quite a gap around the blank itself between the reel seat and the blank, and there is some play in it. A lot of rods in general, they don't do a good job about supporting that reel seat, so there's often play between the blank and the reel seat. And I'm going to try and get rid of that by using some epoxy, just stuffing it down in there to take up the slack between those two. So we need 6 guides, and to figure out what guides you need, you take your caliper and you're going to be measuring in millimeters. If you have wire guides like I have, you just measure the inside diameter of those wire guides. For the tip top, you just need to measure the diameter of the tip of the rod, and that will give you your tube size. So I ordered the tip top, I ordered the 6 guides, also ordered a nice hook keeper to add onto the rod. It didn't come with one originally, but I want one on there just to help keep those hooks in place when we are transiting, or when I throw the rod in the car to prevent those hooks from getting stuck in the seat. So now we have to wait for the parts to come in, and in the meantime I'm going to show you how to take these guides off. So you do need some specialty tools to go ahead about this work, about building rods or repairing them. So luckily mudhole.com has this basic startup kit, which has the rod drying rack, the hand wrapper, and all the small little tools you need, like the reamers. It also includes your thread finishes and your rod building paste and most of your disposables. You just need to pick out the thread that you'd want to use. So I bought my kit quite a few years ago, and it has paid for itself over and over because it has allowed me to repair rods rather than go out and buy new ones, so it is well worth the price. Okay guys, so we have the first guide that I'm going to show you how to take off. So grab your nice sharp pick, and what you're going to do is you're going to score along the finish right here, only above the thread, and you're going to keep doing that until you see the raw thread. And then from there, you're going to very gently scrape that thread. And then you will be able to eventually peel the finish off with the thread. So you just continue that all the way through from here to here. You could do it small sections at a time, that's fine. Do not scratch the blank. Otherwise, you're going to compromise the strength of it. And then when you put strain on it, like you're reeling up a fish or swinging a weight, the blank will more than likely crack, especially with graphite rods. But luckily this is a fiberglass rod, so it is pretty strong to start with, but it is not infallible if you were to injure the blank itself. So let's get into this thing. Okay, so you get the point. You just pick through the epoxy that is just above the thread. I will keep saying that over and over. Don't overshoot it onto here. That's why, if you notice when I was picking, I sort of kept my hand at the edge to prevent me from scratching the fiberglass, because if you do that and it's a little deep, it will compromise the blank. So if you're lucky enough, you can catch the edge of a piece of thread and you can unwrap it like I did up here, and it makes a much nicer transition from the blank itself to where the thread was, so that's less sanding you got to do. So when I say sanding, I mean using a very fine sandpaper. I believe I usually use like 400 maybe, or finer, whatever I can more readily get. And you're just tapering the edge there where the thread and the epoxy was to the blank to make it as smooth and flat as possible, to make when you go to wrap your new guides on, it makes it much easier the flatter it is. If you notice, when I was picking away, I always kept my hand at the very edge somewhere when I was picking, to prevent the pick from flying over and nicking the fiberglass. Fiberglass, it's not such a big deal if you do a little nick over there. It's okay. Fiberglass is pretty resilient. Now, if you were to do that to a graphite rod, those are much more likely to break if you put pressure on it. You can do this with graphite blanks. It's fine. You just have to be really, really careful. Take your time and pick through to the threads and peel. And you need to make sure you set aside 2 hours, I'd say, for each rod when you're doing this, just to make sure you're doing a good job. So I'm going to finish picking the rest of this thread off. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then, like I said, we just got to wait for the parts to come in, and I will show you the parts itself, and then I will show you actually wrapping them on the rod. Alright guys, so here are the parts I ordered for this rod rebuild. So I have 3 of my guides here. Those are the lower ones. And 3 upper guides. I showed you how to measure those. My tip top, which I hope fits. I actually did get another one just in case. So we'll see which one fits. I bought 2 different sizes because it was like an in-between size of when I measured it. And then I had this little hook keeper right here that I'm going to add on. And I think that should be it. This thing's actually pretty nice. It has 2 feet on there to secure that to the blank. Alright guys, so now we're going to start building this rod. Okay guys, so I'm going to show you how to put this front grip onto your rod. So with these grips, they do have a taper that sort of indicates which part goes closest to the reel seat, which goes up to the points up towards the top of the rod. So obviously the wider end on this particular grip right here is going to go closest to the reel seat right here. So when you buy these grips, they come in these sort of generic sizes. So usually I've never found a grip that will fit exactly onto a rod. It's supposed to be a snug fit when you slide this down the blank, but it usually is pretty snug or way too narrow. So you can see there, that's way up the blank. Got a lot of distance you gotta cover. So to fix that, we have a tool. You could buy this on a rod building website or what have you. So this thing's job is to bore out the center of this to make it fit onto your blank. And this piece right here, this rasp, I'm just going to call it, it's obviously narrower up here than wider down this end. So again, you got to be cognizant of which side goes closest to your reel seat, and the part that goes closest to your reel seat, that's going to be the wider end, so make sure you put this on right. And all you do is obviously put that in there and you're boring it out. You don't have to use a drill. Generally, these tools right here come with a handle. I'm using the drill because it's much quicker. So let's get started. You want to hold this tight. Alright, that's pretty good. It's nice and snug. Just like that. Before I secure this grip into place, we have to fix this issue with the reel seat over here where there's an enormous gap in there. So I'll show you that. So to fix that, we're going to use some of this rod paste. And again, this is part A, part B. It's really strong stuff, so we're going to pack that all inside there, let it harden, and then we can move on to putting on that front grip. So before you fill that space, what you want to do is grab your masking tape. Very important part. And you're going to wrap around your rail seat, because you do not want to get that glue on the rail seat. You'll pay for it later. It'll make a mess. And you just sort of roll the top of the tape down. And you should be good. That should be enough. Just be careful, that's all. That's all you gotta do, and just put the tape there for some extra security. Grab your little tiny mixing cup or medicine cup. You can use those. And let's see. I'll unwrap this. So this is a 1-to-1 mix, so grab enough that you feel will fill that gap in there. And that's really all you need. So use 2 different sticks when you're scooping the stuff out, because if you get part A and part B, or part B and part A, it's going to harden and ruin that container of epoxy, whatever you want to call it, this paste. So let me open this, and then get it in the cup, mix it, and then we'll fill that gap and get that all mixed up. Alright, so again, we taped up the edge of the reel seat. Got this little tiny mixing stick in here. And all you want to do is pack this paste way down in there as far as you can. Just be patient. And then just work your way around, fill as much as you can or feel comfortable with. And you should be good. This stuff's really strong. You don't need a ton in there. That's why I didn't mix a huge batch. See, that's why I said put the tape on. See, it's slung on the rail seat. One more scoop, and we should be good. I'm just pressing that paste way down in there as far as I can get. And I think that's it. So we'll let that harden up, and then we can move on to getting our foregrip on there. To clean this stuff up, if for whatever reason you got it on something that you didn't want it to get, just use rubbing alcohol and it should come off pretty easily. So let me go get the rubbing alcohol, have it on standby while I unwrap this and clean it up. Okay, so I mixed up another batch of this rod paste, so we're just gonna smear it all over here. And I did add some more tape down here just because I'm feeling a little clumsy today for whatever reason. So we're just gonna smear the paste on here and then push that new grip down. We should be good. Alright guys, so okie doke, I got the grip slid on, got the paste on there. Now you're going to use some force. And you can see I taped off the bottom of that grip to prevent making a mess, because it's going to smear up and collect on the front of that grip. You sort of spin it. See, that's why I say put the tape on there. Yeah, there's no exact science to this, so just take your time if you can and be as neat as you can. Try and stuff some of that in there too. Actually, there's some space in there. Alright, it's going to clump up and sort of push out again. It's okay. Alright, so those two are together. Obviously going to clean up this extra paste right here before this dries, because I'll be in trouble. Let me do that quick. Alright, so we didn't make much of a mess at all. So I removed the tape. Gonna get my isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol, just clean up that stainless steel part on there, and just make sure it is clean as it can be. And you do not want to get that paste in these threads. You'll be in big trouble. Alright guys, so I'm going to wrap this portion of the blank. I'm going to cover it up with this blue wrap right here. Yeah, there's no fixing that, and it's okay. It's just some smuts from the old grip on there, the old glue. So I'm just going to cover it up and try and make it look nice. So I'm just gonna wrap this thread from here all the way down as far as I can. So I already got it started, as you can see, so let's get moving. Alright, just put my little pulling thread underneath there, putting the final couple wraps on it, usually 3 or 4 wraps on top of it. Press down, snip. Here's my favorite part. Just pull that through. Just like that. And you just take your snippers. That's it. Done. So I have my hook keeper right here. So to make things easier, I highly recommend you get a file, and you're going to file the part of the foot where the line or the thread's going to travel up, just to make that transition easier, and it'll also look better. The same thing for both sides. Alright, so I got a couple wraps of that camo colored thread on there that's going to be holding the hook keeper on there, so let's get started. Alright, so this is the tricky part right here, getting this thread to transition up that foot. Let's get your burnishing tool and just sort of try and fix it if you see any little splits in there. It gets a little tedious at times because you're wrapping over threads, so the underlying thread is guiding whatever is going on top. So you gotta be a little bit more patient. Alright, so I'm gonna tuck this under this loop on the opposite side of the hook keeper. Do a couple wraps on there. Stop right there, clip this, and get this side of the hook keeper finished up. Alright, I'm going to take that little tag in, put it through the loop. Right now I can just zip it through. Just cut that off as flush as you can. Normally I'd use a razor blade, but could care less right now. Alright, so that's one side of the hook keeper done. And quick pull. That is done. Putting the guides on. The first step is, in my book, I have to prep the feet of each guide. So each of these guides has 2 feet. So I got to file down where the thread is going to walk up from the blank onto the guide foot. It'll make my life easier. The thread will just walk right up it. If I didn't file it, it'll sort of lump up as I'm wrapping up to that transition point, and it'll look ugly. But this will take me 15-20 minutes to do all these guides and get them prepped. Once they are filed down, we gotta space them out right on the blank, and I'll show you how to do that. And then we gotta wrap them, and then once they're wrapped, we have to make sure they're aligned with each other. And that involves also putting the tip top on, but that's not a big deal. That's just with glue, lighter, that's it. Once we're happy with the alignment, we put it on the rack, and we're gonna put thread finisher on there. And once that's on, it will take 24 hours to dry, so let's get cracking. Alrighty guys, so at this point I have all my guides ready to go. I filed down all the feet. So the next part is to space out those guides. So luckily for me, I'm rebuilding an older rod, and I sort of have old marks of where the old guides were, but I have to move them back about 1 inch, which makes it easy for me. But if you forgot, or for some reason you can't see where the old marks were, where the guides were originally, you can go on mudhole.com again, and they have a bunch of little charts. Let me see if I can zoom up on that. They have a bunch of little charts on there for spacing, for spinning rods, casting rods, that type of thing, to sort of help you figure out where those guides need to go. So now I just have to put some marks on the blank using a China marker. And then we're going to secure the guides onto the blank using that 1/4-inch masking tape. And then we're going to start wrapping these guides on. Make sure I can see that mark. All right about there. And try and get it as center as you can in the first place so you're not fiddling with it later. And you match the ring, the edge of the ring up to that mark, not the edge of the feet. Let's really get and do one more piece over there. You don't need a ton of tape, just enough to keep it snug in place, and you squeeze down on the tape and it'll help keep it pretty tight to the blank. So let me do this to the other guides and then we'll get wrapping. Alright guys, so I'm finishing up my last guide. Went pretty well for the most part. Took me about a half an hour to get all these put on here. I haven't done it in a while. That's why I allotted myself 3 hours total. I thought it was going to take longer, but I remembered what I'm supposed to be doing. So finish this guide up. We got to get the guides aligned, which is a pretty hairy time because you are often having to wiggle those guides around the blank with the thread already on it, all that hard work you just put into it. And then sometimes when you're wiggling them around a little bit, they can come loose. So I'm hoping that's not the case. I've never had that happen, but watch it happen this time. So yeah, let me finish this last guide up and we will get the tip top on the best we can. And then we'll align everything and make it look nice and then put thread finish on it. Alright guys, so we have wrapped all 6 guides on. We put the tip top on. So now we have to align them all in reference to the reel seat. So the easiest way to do this, the most convenient way, is to take a length of string or leftover rod building thread. You take one end, tape it to the center of the reel seat, on the reel side obviously, and you're going to run that thread or string through all the guides, every single one, and then out of that tip top. And then once it comes out of the tip top, try and be gentle. Once it comes out of the tip top, it's going to come out, and then you're going to take that tag in and tape it back onto the blank like I already have. So just make sure there's some tension on it and you should be good. Now I'm going to show you why you need to do that. Pretty simple. Alright, so now you're going to look from above with the guides upward facing the sky, and you're going to run down the blank, and the string that you just put through should be dead center on the blank already. And because of that, you're going to look down that string, and then when it goes through the guides, the string should be dead center on the feet of those guides every single time. If it is not, to make them center on that string, to make the guide centered on that string, you'd have to wiggle these guides around a little bit, and it is scary to do that because you just spent all that time wrapping them. Do it very gently and you can do it. The threads will tell you when you need to stop. Trust me, you'll see it. Once the guides you feel are all centered, just do the good old hold the rod up And you're just gonna peek down the guides. It is actually bad if you hold it up to a light. And you should see guide after guide after guide after guide. At that point, when everything's straight, nothing looks funny, it is as straight as you could possibly humanly get it with your eye, you are ready to put some thread finish on it, which I'm about to do now. Thank goodness. And once I'm done with this, rod's done, ready to use. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so now it is time to start putting thread finish on our guides. So all you do is take part A and part B, get your medicine cup and a mixing stick, and you're going to mix this in a 1-to-1 ratio and make sure you just mix enough to sort of guesstimate how much you'll actually need to cover all the wraps on your guides, and you should be good. Just start mixing it up with the stirring stick. Now if you have some sort of heat source, you can hold it close to that and that'll help release the bubbles, and the finish will come out much nicer once it's dried on your rod. So turn on your rod drying machine with the rod on it and just start laying down the thread finish. Alright guys, I just put the rod drying rack on a quick pause. I just want to show you something important quick. When you put the finish on, put it from here all the way over to here and make sure you get finish in those little crooks between the guide and the blank. Make sure that's really well covered, and then you're doing a little bit of overlap from the thread onto the blank, like a 1/16 of an inch on both sides. It just looks way neater. All the guides are done. I think it's going to come out looking really nice. So now we got to wait 24 hours and we should be done, and I can throw a reel on this thing and we can all stare at it. Okay guys, so you reached the end of the video where we refreshed this offshore angler sea lion. It was $50 brand new off the shelf at Bass Pro Shops about 10 years ago. We replaced the disintegrating foregrip, added a nice hook keeper on there. We replaced all the 6 guides with heavy duty ones. They were like $2.70 a piece, and the tip toppers replaced with a heavy duty one. I think total on parts I spent about $40, and it wasn't that bad. I think I spent about 2 to 3 hours total doing all this work, not including, obviously, I'm not including the time it was on the rack drying. So I hope I inspired you guys to get out there this winter and learn something new, learn how to replace your guides and just fix stuff on your rod. I know you may be a little put off by the price of the basic starter kit to fix your rods that I showed you earlier in the video, but I promise you it is well worth it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you like and subscribe. Thank you.